Sure.
Give me your name, age, and occupation.
Nate Moore, 47 years old, and I'm a film producer.
Okay, so let's talk about this,
Sure.
sir, because listen, I did a little bit of research.
Sure.
I think you've got some calling cards
Sure.
that you might have here today, but you want to fill in for the uninitiated?
So I've worked on such movies as Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, Black Panther: The Eternals, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Captain America: Brave New World, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series.
So was film something you always wanted to get into, just this childhood obsession with movies, superheroes in particular?
Not even superheroes in particular, but movies, to be quite honest. So I think somewhere there's a time capsule from my high school where I said I wanted to be a director, but this was the early 90s, so there was less information about how it all worked.
Yeah.
All I knew is I wanted to do something in film. So I applied and got into UCLA, and then I applied into the film program, and I did not get in. But I lucked out, and I got a job as an intern at Columbia Pictures, and my career started from there.
Interesting. Is there like a personal project that you feel most connected to amongst the many that you've been a part of throughout your career?
Yeah, it's hard because they're all your children, right? Like, you don't want to pick a favorite. Obviously, there's movies that have really resonated, like Black Panther and Civil War and Winter Soldier, all in their own ways. I'm just proud to be able to be a part of these things and help bring what I would consider characters that people have a true affection for and bring them to life on the big screen.
Well, let's talk about how you're about to become a very beloved character for us all. Let's turn that camera around because, incredibly intriguing to have you segue into reality television. So talk to me about your history with Survivor, and especially given, your association with the business. What made you decide to go from a fan to a player? Yeah,
so I first saw Survivor in the year 2000. I had just graduated college. I had just gotten my first job, and I was living, because I needed a place to live, in the basement of a frat house next to UCLA. And so it was a tough summer because you're trying to transition out of being a student into a working person, and all my friends were out of town because it was summer, but there was this show on called Survivor.
Those were your new friends.
They were my new friends, and it was sort of the perfect mix of things I loved, like The Real World, because I grew up watching The Real World, like most kids from the early 90s, and adventure. And I loved that combination, and I loved the format of the show, and I've stuck with it ever since. So I've seen every episode of every series, and I've seen some series more than once. And I'm actually in the process now of showing my kids some of the episodes so that they can understand what I'm doing out here.
Yeah, so what has that process been like to watch, essentially, after you fell in love with the show all this time ago, watching other people do the exact same thing?
It's fun, and it's interesting because you remember shows differently when you saw them to when you see them now.
Right.
And to be quite honest, technology is so different. So, we started our girls on Survivor Tocantins because I knew JT was a great winner, but you forgot, well, I'd certainly forgot all the things that happened in that season. And now we're in the Cook Island season, which has so many great players, from Yul to Penner to Parvati to Ozzy to Candace, and it's just fun to sort of revisit those characters and see them, a lot of them in their earlier Survivor careers because they've gone on multiple seasons. But to experience them with my daughters who are 7 and 6 is really cool because they just watch the show in a whole different way.
And you said that one of the reasons why you wanted to introduce them was to prepare them for 49. So talk to me about, was applying something that you always had in mind and you just didn't have time until this opportunity? Was there something that happened that made you say, yeah, you know what, I've watched enough, let me try to walk the walk?
Yeah, I applied when I was in my late 20s, actually, and I did not get an interview, which is fine, because I think I would have been terrible back then.
Is that the reason why you're coming out and be like, Jeff, I have a bone to pick?
That's right. Hey, remember 15 years ago? But I actually was out of town for work, and I was stuck in quarantine because I'd gotten COVID, because who hasn't? And my friend's like, well, why don't you just take this opportunity to finally apply? So I asked my wife, and she said, go for it, and I did it. Because she also, who I've been married to now for, this will be 13 years, I got her into the show as well, so she knows how much I love it. And I went for it because you got to try, you know what I mean? And I'm just so happy to be here, sitting here now and be able to start playing. Do
you feel any sorts of, I'm assuming this might come in further once you actually get onto the beaches, but is there any sort of odd feeling of, I've been on so many sets, and now I'm sort of the one that's getting all the cameras focused on them? Yeah, I've gone out of my way to not be in the movies that I've been able to be a part of because I don't care to be in front of the camera, to be honest. So it is a bit weird, and it's a bit weird from a process standpoint to see the machine working and it be a machine that I have no control over. But it's also really fun. It's fun to not have that responsibility and I imagine it's a bit of freeing as well.
It is.
Like, listen, I don't need to worry about if this jib's doing this thing,
That's
what
exactly
drone's flying over. Like, that's their job.
That's exactly
I just gotta sit here and starve.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hang out in Holding and go where I need to go, But I truly would play this game if it wasn't on TV. It's not about being in front of the cameras for me. It's really about the game itself.
Well, let's look back upon the previous Titans of the game.
Sure.
Give me one winner
Sure.
and one non-winner who you identify with the most, either personally, strategically, what have
I
you.
think one winner that I think is fantastic that goes under the radar a lot is Earl Cole.
You're in Fiji.
Exactly, and it was a tough season, and what I loved about Earl's game is that he led people, and people liked him, and there were some strong personalities on that season, but Earl, I think, was the first unanimous winner in history.
Yep.
I think he had one vote against him in all the tribals, because he was such a good person that even though people knew it wasn't necessarily in their interest to keep him, they did. And he never betrayed anyone, not even Yao Man, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think he's underrated. There's and I'm going to forget her last name, but I thought in the season that Ben won, Chrissy actually played an amazing game.
Chrissy Hoffbeck, yeah.
Yes, and she couldn't have known that the Final Four would be changed to a fire-making challenge. But up to that point, I found her story really interesting because she was a sort of a white-collar, older woman who sort of found herself and found her power in that game. And I think had that format not changed on her, I think she would have won.
I do want to call something out in this little bio that I got, because I did see you mentioned Ferris from Australian Survivor.
Oh, baby.
We need to, can we keep on Australian Survivor for a second, my friend?
I mean, Australian Survivor is amazing. I love it.
Give me some of your favorites.
Ferris, obviously, fantastic. I mean, I think Christie's final tribal in that first season of Australian Survivor might be one of the best final tribals I've seen.
It's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
To the point that, it's become a thing where every year people are like, well, if Christie could pull it around in this final tribal council, anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, between that final, the final challenge where she outlasts Lee and then gives the best rationale to give for the money on a tribe that I think that would have all voted against her before that was amazing. But I thought Ferris's season was one of the best seasons I've seen forever. Between the characters, Kirby was amazing, Mark was amazing. What was her name? The Russian model. Valeria. Oh my gosh. And I really thought his gameplay was pretty remarkable because he managed to both be in the crosshairs a lot and get out of the crosshairs multiple times by building and rebuilding relationships. He never gave up on anybody, which I think is hard to do.
Yeah, that's so interesting, though, because, listen, it takes a dedicated fan to seek out, there's not easily available on Paramount Plus.
That's right.
So, this shows you are loyal to the soil, man, that you are seeking out overseas seasons.
I love it. And even the season right now is pretty entertaining. It's so different because it is a longer game and there's more players, so you really feel like you get to know these people because, man, 47 days, 24 episodes, it is all supersized. But it's really cool. It's really cool to see their approach. It's really interesting to see how I think living outdoors does not faze most of the Australian cast members. And American cast members are like, oh no, and they're like, this is great.
Yeah.
It's just such a different attitude. I love it.
What's your favorite moment in Survivor history? I suppose domestic or international?
Domestic or international? I mean, look, favorite moment. There's been some good ones.
I know.
That is hard to pick, not because I don't have them, but because, here's a great blindside.
Yeah.
When James Clement was blindsided in China with two gigantic idols in his pocket.
Those weren't little totems, they were plaques.
Like plaques. I thought that was one of the better plays. And I thought, again, talk about a winner who maybe isn't talked about enough, but Todd, the mastery he had of that season was pretty amazing because he played the middle so well. And again, a great final tribal, beating Amanda, who on paper you might say deserved to win.
Yeah.
But the blind side, you remember those? We just showed our kids the challenge that Ozzy threw in Cook Islands to get rid of Billy, which is what is he doing? But just the fact that you can do that on the show, that the rules are what the players make of them, I think is what makes the show really special.
So, on that note, as you get ready to, throw yourself into all this, what would you say is one life experience you feel has prepared you the most for this?
Oh, you know what? When I was in school, I worked at a summer camp called Bruin Woods, and it was kind of like Dirty Dancing, but for UCLA. We all lived in a cabin. There was about 48 of us, and I didn't know anybody going in. And you'd work with kids all day, and then you would have to navigate all these relationships in the evenings and on the weekends. And I think being thrown in a group of people who on paper, again, I didn't have a ton in common with other than when you went to UCLA, and to come out with truly still some of the best friends I've had in my life was really amazing. And I hope that's what happens here. I am excited to play the game. I know there is elements of deception and lying that are necessary, but I also really hope to come away with 17 new friends, because I do think people are interesting, and I think people are why I want to play this game. It's figuring out what makes people tick and why they're special, and celebrating that, and having fun and laughing, and really bringing joy to the game. Again, even though I know I'm going to have to write their names down, but they're going to have to write my name down too, so it's fine.
Nobody puts Nady in a corner.
That's that's right.
So what was your prep process like for this? Because obviously you were a very studied person of this show. Did you adapt any previous, experiences into that? Were you just coming up with things off the fly? I've got to practice this, got to work on this before coming out here?
Yeah, the things I really focused on from a fitness standpoint, because I love exercising, but I run a lot, and I really wanted to focus on sort of body weight fitness. So I did a lot of stuff with grip strength and hanging and balancing, because I know the challenges aren't about can I run a half marathon, which I might be able to, but really about functional fitness and being able to throw my body weight around. The other thing I did was buy a lot of puzzles, different kinds of puzzles, which are really fun to play with your kids anyway. So it got to be kind of fun and research, but just different kinds of puzzles. The tree puzzle where you have to put on the things, like the bigger ones we do. There's a puzzle I still haven't solved. It's sort of a bunch of crosses that build into a box, but those were my big points of focus, because I don't know beyond that what you can really do, especially since I've seen all the seasons. So it's not like I can go back and, I do go back and watch them, but I don't know that I would have gotten much out of that. And let's see if I can build a fire, because that might be one thing that I wish I would have done more of.
Yeah, did you just try to scout out areas where you won't get busted for arson?
That's right. They kind of frown upon starting a fire in the park in Hermosa Beach.
Forgive me, because this is the way I usually voice this question, but it feels so incredibly on the nose when applied to you. What is your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite coming into this?
My biggest superpower is that I think I have a very good skill at making people feel comfortable and heard. Part of a job as a producer is listening to a lot of different ideas and synthesizing them into one idea that we can all get behind. And listening to people from all walks of life, which I do like to do anyway.
Yeah.
I think my kryptonite, my kryptonite, my wife would say...
I know we're crossing the streams right now.
No, I think it would be... Look, I tend to like my sleep. So me on not a lot of sleep, I think is going to be hard. And I do, as much as I am a patient person, if I do lose my temper, I lose my temper in a real way. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it certainly could. But I think, I think that could happen to any of us, to be quite honest.
So you wrote down here that you would describe yourself as, quote, incredibly, almost pathologically sarcastic. And what's so interesting about this sense of humor, right, is it's something to help bridge the gap. At the same time. Humor's in the eye of the beholder as well. Is that just sort of like a default state you go back to?
It is. I like to laugh. And my whole family, we are the loudest people in a restaurant, and we laugh the loudest. And if I like you, I'm probably going to give you some shit. Because that's how I show love.
Yeah.
But to your point, you have to know if your relationship can sustain that, or if people are not going to be open to that. But certainly my daughters can tell you how much grief I give them. I think laughing is the best, you know? And so even when it gets hard out here, hopefully I'll be able to infuse some fun, because we signed up for this. And this should be fun. This is a game. And it's not life. We're taking time out of our lives to do it. But we should be having fun out here.
So on that note, how do you think you're going to be perceived in this game?
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be one of the older contestants, which is interesting as somebody who's watched it from the beginning. You could be Rudy or you could be BB, and those are two very different stories.
Just don't wash anyone's face if you try drinking water and you're okay.
That's right. So I think I'm going to have to. I have my work cut out for me to meet them where they are, right? Because I think it's always a disaster when the old person says, well, in my day, we should do it this way. And the truth is, I still feel like a kid. I don't feel as old as I am. So hopefully I can find the common ground with some of my younger tribe mates and really build bonds, because that's what it's all about.
Do you plan on being upfront about your career?
That's a big question. I'm not sure is the honest answer. I think it will depend. I think there is a very small chance somebody recognizes me, so I'm hesitant to lie and get caught in a lie. But
I was going to say, without to typify the new era, if there were ever a group of people that would most likely be Marvel fans, it would be new era contestants.
I worry, to be honest. And I just worry that some of these younger kids might know.
Yeah.
And so there's no upside to lying. However, I don't think being a film producer sounds cool. It sounds a little cheesy, to be quite honest, and it's my job. And I also am not sure anybody wants to give me money. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to ask people to give you money. So, Look, if I could get away with never saying what I did, I totally would. If no one calls me on it, I'm not going to offer it up. But we'll see. I have to play it by ear.
There we go. Well, let's turn this mirror around to people that will be either friends or foes for you in the game. So we'll start on the good side, the positives. If you could give me their initials or describe to me, who are some people that you're picking up good vibe from, that you're like, this is my best case scenario, we hit the beach day one, this is a possible ride or die?
Sure. I mean, to be honest, it's such a surreal experience that you're kind of craving eye contact and a smile, and who seems like you are on your wavelength. I'm terrible with initials, and there's so many S somethings or N somethings. There's a gentleman who is always like the most smiley person. He wears 2 hearing aids. He seems super cool. I think we'd hit it off. There's also a very large gentleman who has more muscles than all of us put together, who snores like a tank, but I think is approaching this as fun, which I like. I really want to make bonds with people who see this as an opportunity for fun, and I do. We will see. I want to play with people who are not sociopaths, who are lying for fun. If you have to lie because you have to lie, I get it. But, there have been players in the past who I feel like kind of go out of their way to lie because this is an opportunity to do that. And that, I don't love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's this idea, I think, of like, well, it's also a game, it's also an experience.
That's right.
And I think there's certainly people I've heard time and time again of like, I just want to work with them because I just want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so much of anything you do is the people you're doing it with. Yeah. So why would you want to hang out or work with a bunch of people who you don't like?
Well, what about on the other side of things? Is there anyone, either ones you're not picking up good vibes from, or anyone you're like, this is a threat, like this is someone I want to get rid of down the line?
I don't see any threats. It's so hard because we can't talk, right? Everybody's an opportunity, and everybody can be an ally.
Yeah.
A threat can just be a shield by another name. I think it is hard when you're told not to talk, and some people take those rules very seriously, and it's really hard to make eye contact. So there's some people I don't feel like I have a good beat on just because I think they were following the rules and really closed. And I get it. I don't fault anybody for anything.
Yeah.
But I do remember more the people who will smile or laugh, even if it gets you in trouble, because that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talk about, getting the most enjoyment out of this experience. I imagine a part of that is what's located around you in terms of idols, advantages, journeys. How much are you embracing that?
I come from an old school sort of point of view of I would love to win immunity. I'm not sure I'm going to hunt for idols unless my back's against the wall. There is a lot of downside to that, and if you look historically, and certainly in the last 10 years, I think people who have advantages probably have a lower percentage of winning than the people who haven't, because it immediately makes you a target. And even if you look at this season, the fact that Star had an advantage, I think she did the smartest thing she could do, which is like, you have it.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden she's not a threat, but your threat level goes through the roof as soon as somebody knows you have an advantage, an idol. Even poor Mitch, was going to get crucified until he got rid of that thing. Like, in a weird way, because I think casts are so savvy now to the power of those things, there's actually more downside than upside. Now, there might be a point where I'm like, hey, this is the only way I'm getting out of it. And of course, I'm going to run around this jungle like a crazy person, but I don't want to build my game around that. Like, I think the days of the Russell Hantz approach may be going away because it does make people look at you a certain way. And I'm already going to have to overcome a generational gap, I think. I don't need another thing on top of that. So,
that being said, if you were to acquire something, would you tell somebody else about it? Because that's always a big...
That is a great question.
Operative question.
No. The short answer is no. The long answer is, unless it's a way to get me out of a jam. But I think the best idols are the ones that people don't know about, because, as soon as one person knows... I am not sure how you trust anybody enough to think they're not going to use that information at some point.
Yeah.
Because information is power. So that would have to be a super ride or die that I believed in. And honestly, if I believed in them that much, I probably should tell them. So my gut says no. But if that's the only way for me to move forward, of course.
So I know that you're not here to do this, but I will put you briefly in creative shoes for a hot second. While we're sticking with idols and advantages, if you could bring in either a twist from a previous season, old era, new era, or create your own that you want to play with.
Oh, interesting.
In 49, what would it be?
Once upon a time, you tell me, I'm pretty sure there was such a thing as an idol nullifier.
There was.
I think that would be great, because it's interesting. In watching Cook Islands, I had forgotten that Yule's idol was post reading the votes, which is actually insane, because that's way too much power.
And then you're basically being like, try to vote me out.
Exactly, and which he did. To his credit, he used that the right way. I think an idol nullifier would be interesting, because that then doesn't guarantee that an idol will work, because I think sometimes, and look, people don't always play it right, so you look, there's always risk anyway. But if you could also have a chance to knock that back over the net, I think that would be really interesting.
What would you say in general is your hottest take about Survivor, either about the show or a season or even just a player?
Oh, my hottest take is I hate the Final Four fire advantage. I think
you did not vote for it in the 50 vote.
I surely did not, sir. Because I think that A, making fire feels pretty arbitrary. B, if it's about relationships, you're actually, and you can make the argument, oh, well, it's a relationship and maybe they get a bump. I just think that's not how the game was initially built, and it certainly makes it easier for some people to get further, knowing, well, look, I just have to make it to 4, and then even if you tried to vote me out, you can't, because I'm just going to build fire. So that's always kind of stuck in my craw, to be honest.
And not to mention, what's interesting looking at the evolution of the game is, like, we have seen Final 2 alliances.
Yes.
When it was expanded to a Final 3, then it's like, okay, us 3 just need to get to the end.
Yeah.
You could argue with some people with Final 4 fire making, it was sort of like, yeah, we'll just lock in as a 4. That was sort of what happened in 46 as an example.
Sure.
Where it was like, oh, we'll just get rid of everybody else, we'll make it to 4, and then we'll see what happens.
And then we'll see what happens. Anyway, I don't love that, and generally I would say I don't like anything where it's just about random chance. So I actually kind of think the journeys are cool. If it's just about rolling dice, though, no thank you, because that's just not fair. Like those people didn't choose the journey, and now they have a chance, and so there's no control. You should have to make a decision. That's fair. As soon as there's no control, I feel like that's unfair.
The new era has had a fair number, and even across Survivor history, going back to like Oolong, disaster tribes.
Sure.
So I'm intrigued because you obviously come in with your own game plan, but do you anticipate having to shift things if you wind up in a scenario where your tribe ends up going 3-4 times pre-merge?
Yes, but I would say, I think if season 48 showed you anything, it was that green tribe probably would have been Oolonged very easily had there not been a tribe switch, right? So I don't know that you can be Oolonged anymore, but certainly that is, to me, the scariest thing, because not because I'll get voted off, I can get voted off on any tribe, but because it doesn't allow people a chance to play, really. The season's already relatively short, so if you're going to tribal 3 nights in a row, like, you didn't even really get a shot, Yeah. And so I feel bad for the Stephanies and the Kevins and the Justins who are sort of like, I just got here, what happened?
Yeah.
But one thing I think I will pride myself on doing is helping tribes win challenges. Like, I love team sports. I love being a cheerleader. I hope I am physically strong and I'm relatively smart. So my hope is that's not where I end up. But if I do, I got to ride it out.
So skipping from the beginning of the game to the end, something that I always love about the jury format is that everyone has almost an infinite list of criteria to pick between, right? Relationships, likability, resume, story.
Yeah.
Right now, what would you say is your core value? If I were to, write a sentence that said, like, if I was a juror, I would vote for blank, what would that blank be?
I would vote for... It's a great question. I think I would vote for who had the best relationships. Not who had the most idols, not who won the most immunities, not even who pulled the biggest moves, but whose relationships got them to the end. Because I think, going back to season 1, that's what the show was always built to explore. How people relate to each other and whether or not you can get people to work, sometimes against their own interest, to get you to the end. So who had the best relationships?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, because again, you're talking about wanting to play with people who are willing to embrace this experience as much as you do. I think that plays forward as well when you're living with these people 24/7, so it's not just going to reflect in checking off a list. It's more so the person I was occupying my time with for the better part of 26 days.
Yeah, and how did they not only use their relationship with me, but other people to get where they were? Yeah. And how successful were they? Like, I thought Rachel did a great job because people liked her even who weren't on her tribe. That's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that you can sit there and do nothing, I don't think, because I do think you have to be an active participant in the game, but I do think I would respect that more than, again, going on an immunity run or, again, one big move that feels flashy. I think the notion of flashy moves to me is oversold, and I certainly think the new era really dines out on the need for a resume, but I'm not sure that's not, I don't value that maybe as much as the new era players do.
You want the steak, not the sizzle.
I do.
Last thing I want to ask, it's a bit of an odd scenario. So let's go old school here.
Sure.
Loved ones visit.
Sure.
But you have to bring out a celebrity or a fictional character. Now, it's interesting for you, man, because, like, do you want to mix work and pleasure here?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, if I could have a fictional character, yeah. Yeah. I'll take Spider-Man. A Spider-Man would kill. Any challenge, Spider-Man's going to win. He's super smart. He's super agile. I'll take Spider-Man 10 times out of 10.
And he's also, like, this nice, like, precocious kid,
Yeah,
right?
Who wouldn't
like,
want Spider-Man? Peter Parker, get him over here. Let's go.
100%. Hopefully you got your own Spidey sense out here,
That's
just,
right.
like, trying to pick up on what people are doing.
Let's
so,
hope.
I mean, this was just such a fantastic conversation,
thanks, man.
I mean, it's a delight to get to talk with someone who fell in love with this game 25 years ago
Yeah.
and is watching international versions now, like...
Like a psychopath.
No, I mean, listen, you're talking to one as well. So I think it's this idea, though, of, like, what has innately kept you connected for the better part of 2.5 decades. And I think it's what you've spoken about with these human emotional elements. I think it makes a lot of sense that you're sort of carrying forward what made you fall in love with the show in the first place.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what I want to try to do. We'll see if on the first episode I'm waving to the camera, you're like, that didn't work.
Yeah, famous last, but at least you tried it, man.
At least I tried it.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.